Welcome. So good to be with you on this Wednesday as we get together for a little midweek Bible study and devotional time. So glad you've taken some time out of your day, out of your week to join us to dive into God's Word and hopefully be uplifted and encouraged and maybe even a little bit challenged by what He has to say to us. And speaking of challenges, as Christians, it's easy when we look at our world and we look at just the brokenness and the chaos that we see all around us. It's easy to feel kind of helpless and even cynical, right? It's easy to think, well, what could I possibly do? What difference could I possibly make? It just seems like a lost cause when we look at the world around us and how much sin and chaos and brokenness there is. And I think in a lot of ways that's a normal reaction. It's not the best reaction, but it certainly is not an abnormal reaction that a lot of us have, even as Christians. We want to think hopefully, and yet it's very easy to fall into those cynical mindsets. And that's definitely not the way Jesus sees the world and sees the people in this world. In Luke chapter 10, Jesus is preparing to send out his 72 of his followers. By the way, not the apostles, not professionals, quote unquote, just ordinary people like you and me. And before he sends them, he gives them a vision of what he's sending them out into and to do. A vision not of chaos, not of defeat, but one of harvest. A harvest waiting to be brought in. Jesus looked at a broken world full of sinners and skeptics, even enemies of his. And what does he see? A harvest. Not a battlefield, not a lost cause, not a waste, but a harvest. In fact, Jesus says specifically the harvest, not only does he see a harvest, but he says the harvest is plentiful. I mean, think about that. He doesn't say that the world is too far gone. He says it's ripe, it's ready, it's just waiting for someone's to go in and go into it and to proclaim and to preach. You see, the issue isn't that the field is barren. It's that the barn perhaps is full of workers staying inside, not willing to go outside into the world where there is a harvest. Jesus says the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers, the workers, uh, there are few. Jesus' concern isn't about lost people refusing to listen, and not that there won't be some, right? But that's not his main concern here. It's about God's people refusing to go. He doesn't say pray for the lost. He says pray for laborers. Pray for workers to be sent out. Could it be that the biggest bottleneck in evangelism and going out into our world to preach and proclaim what God has done and to proclaim the truth about who God is and what Jesus is and or who Jesus is and what he has done for us, that the real bottleneck is not the hardness of hearts out there in the world, but the hesitancy of hearts in here in God's people. Jesus is calling his followers, including us, to see what he sees and to go where he says to go and where he's already working. And so Jesus says, therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest. Jesus doesn't just say go, he starts with prayer. And not this casual, kind of lighthearted prayer, not Lord, help people to know you, but an urgent, burdened prayer. God, raise up workers. Send people into the places that you love and to the people that you love, even if they don't know you. And here's the catch: the ones who pray are meant to become the ones who go. We start praying for someone to go to them, and God answers, well, how about you? Why don't you go? Because I've called you to go as well. But then he also says these words. He says, go, I am sending you out like lambs among wolves. Now, let's just be honest. That's not exactly the greatest recruiting pitch ever, right? But Jesus doesn't sugarcoat the mission. However, he also doesn't send us out alone. He sends them two by two because the mission is communal. He sends them where he himself was about to go because he's always ahead of us and working. And he sends them with authority and purpose, not fear. The risk is real. Make no mistake, make no mistake about it. But Jesus says, so is the harvest. The harvest is real, and that's way more important than whatever risk we may incur. And so here's the question for us. When you look at your neighborhood, your workplace, your school, your town, your city, do you see a harvest? Do you see people to avoid or people God is already pursuing and working on? I pray that God would open our eyes to see the people around us the way that He sees them. I pray that He would break our hearts for what breaks His. And I pray that He would make us willing to pray and courageous enough to go. Because, church, the harvest truly is plentiful. Hope you have a blessed day. God bless.